Good morning, everyone. Have you ever found yourself questioning the honesty of someone's words? In a world where trust is the foundation of every relationship, understanding the subtle signs of deception can empower you to navigate life with clarity and confidence. Today, we'll uncover the 5 signs someone is lying to you, an essential toolkit to protect your integrity and strengthen your instincts. Recognizing dishonesty isn't just about catching lies, it's about building a life rooted in truth, accountability, and self-awareness. Let's dive into these powerful insights and learn how to discern truth from fiction in the most inspiring way possible. All right, listen closely. When someone is lying, they struggle to keep their story straight. It's like they're walking on a tightrope, trying to balance their words while the weight of the truth pulls them down. At first, their tale might seem smooth, convincing even, but the cracks always start to show. Details shift, timelines blur, and before long, their story doesn't add up. Here's the thing about the truth: it's solid, unchanging, like a rock you can hold in your hand. Lies, though, are slippery. They change shape depending on the pressure, on the questions you ask, or on how much attention you're paying. A liar often gets caught up in their own web because they can't remember every detail they made up. They forget what they said yesterday or even a moment ago. And when you catch those contradictions, that's your signal. Picture this. You're having a conversation and they tell you they were at one place at a specific time. Later, they mention being somewhere else at that same moment. You ask them a simple follow-up, and suddenly they're stammering, backtracking, or worse, getting defensive. That's because they didn't think you'd notice. They underestimated your awareness. A lie always depends on the hope that the other person won't dig deeper. But when you do, you see how quickly the house of cards falls apart. Now, here's what makes this tricky. Some liars are smooth. They're quick on their feet, weaving their stories with skill. But even the best can't account for everything. They might remember the big points, but the small details, that's where they trip. Maybe it's a date that doesn't match up. Maybe it's a sequence of events that defies logic. And when you point it out, watch how they react. Some will double down, trying to make you doubt yourself. Others will quickly try to change the subject, redirecting your focus. Both reactions are red flags. But don't get it twisted, it's not just about catching them in a blatant contradiction. Sometimes it's more subtle. They might leave out key parts of the story, hoping you won't notice. Or they might tell you one thing but act in a way that contradicts it. Their words say one thing, but their actions, they're telling you the real story. Let's take it a step further. Pay attention to how their narrative evolves over time. A liar often needs to adapt their story to fit new circumstances. The more they talk, the more they risk exposing themselves. That's why a lot of liars try to keep their stories short and vague. They know that the more details they give, the more opportunities there are for those details to be scrutinized. And don't underestimate the power of your intuition. Sometimes you don't even need to hear the full contradiction to know something's off. You feel it in your gut, that little nudge telling you their story doesn't sit right. Trust that feeling. It's your mind picking up on inconsistencies your conscious brain might not have processed yet. Now, you might be wondering, how do you handle it when you catch someone in these inconsistencies? Do you call them out right away? Do you let it slide? That depends on the situation and the relationship you have with the person. Sometimes confronting them head-on is the right move, especially if the truth is critical. Other times, it's better to gather more information, let them dig their own hole deeper. Here's the key, though. When you address it, stay calm. A liar expects you to get emotional, to react in a way that shifts the focus away from their story. Don't give them that power. Ask questions, probe gently, and watch how they respond. The more you stay composed, the more uncomfortable they become because they realize you're not buying what they're selling. And remember, not every inconsistency means someone is lying. Sometimes people genuinely forget details or mix things up. But when those discrepancies pile up, when the contradictions are too big to ignore, that's when you know. That's when you trust what you see, what you hear, and what you feel. Lying takes effort. It's exhausting to keep up the act, to remember every fabricated detail. The truth, it's effortless. It stands firm, no matter how many questions you ask, no matter how closely you examine it. So when you hear those inconsistent stories, when the details don't match up, let that be your signal. Trust yourself to see through the noise and recognize what's real. All right, let's talk about the language that doesn't need words, body language. When someone is lying, their body often tells the truth before their mouth does. You see, the human body has a way of betraying the mind. It's those subtle movements, the little things they can't control that give them away. Let's start with the eyes. Now, when someone is being honest, their eyes are steady, focused. But when they're lying, oh, those eyes start to dance. They might avoid looking at you altogether, like they're afraid you'll see the truth written on their face. Or they might overcompensate, staring too hard, like they're trying to convince you of something even they don't believe. Either way, it's unnatural, and you'll feel it. Then there's the fidgeting. Lying makes people nervous. It's like their body knows they're doing something wrong, and it just can't sit still. You'll see them tapping their fingers, playing with their hair, shifting in their seat. It's like they're trying to burn off the tension, but instead they're putting it on full display. Pay attention to their hands, too. Are they hiding them? Putting them in their pockets, crossing their arms? That's a classic sign of someone trying to shield themselves, to hide the truth. But here's the twist. Sometimes, instead of fidgeting, a liar will go to the opposite extreme. They'll freeze up, sitting unnaturally still, like a statue. It's as if they're afraid that any movement will give them away. They might hold their breath, their face stiff, their body locked. That kind of stillness, it's not calm. It's tension, pure and simple. Let's talk about their gestures. Honest people speak with their whole body. Their words and their actions flow together naturally. But when someone's lying, there's a disconnect. Maybe their gestures don't match their words. They'll say something reassuring, but their hands are clenched or they're backing away. It's like their body is shouting what their mouth is trying to hide. And then there's the timing. When someone is lying, their gestures often lag behind their words. They'll say something and then nod instead of nodding as they speak. It's a small thing, but it's a tell. It's their brain struggling to keep up with the story they're spinning. Now, you might notice their face doing some strange things too. Micro expressions, those fleeting, involuntary movements can give you a glimpse of their real emotions. They might smile, but it doesn't reach their eyes. Or you'll catch a flash of fear, anger, or guilt before they can mask it. The face is tricky to control, especially under pressure. But here's the thing, it's not just about what they're doing, it's about what's different. Everyone has their own baseline, their natural way of moving, of expressing themselves. When that changes, when their usual gestures are replaced with something stiff or exaggerated, that's your cue to pay attention. And don't forget about their voice. Body language isn't just about movements, it's about the whole package. A liar's voice might waver, get quieter, or even go up in pitch. They might clear their throat more often or take longer pauses like they're stalling for time. It's all part of the same picture. So, what do you do with all this? You observe. You don't jump to conclusions, but you don't ignore the signs either. You piece them together like a puzzle. One fidget, one glance away that might not mean much on its own. But when you see a pattern, when the eyes, the hands, the stillness, the voice all start to tell the same story, that's when you know. And let me tell you, this isn't about catching someone in the act for the sake of it. This is about protecting yourself, about understanding the people around you. When you can read these signs, you can see the truth hidden in the lies. You can make better decisions, build stronger relationships, and avoid the traps that dishonesty lays out for you. So pay attention to the body, to the movements that speak louder than words. The truth is always there, waiting for you to see it. All you have to do is look, listen, and trust what your instincts are telling you. All right, now let's break this down, because when someone's lying, their words can be their greatest weakness. There's a balance in communication, and liars, they either overshoot or fall short. It's like they're trying too hard or not trying hard enough. And that's where you catch them right there in their responses. First, let's talk about those overly detailed answers. When someone's lying, they think more is better. They believe if they give you a long, drawn-out explanation, you'll stop questioning them. They'll throw in every detail they can think of things that don't even matter. If you ask them where they were, instead of just saying, "I was at the store," they'll go on about what they bought, who they saw, how long the line was, what song was playing. It's like they're building a wall of words, hoping you won't notice the cracks. But here's the thing about too much detail, it's unnatural. Honest people don't feel the need to explain every little thing. They answer what's asked, plain and simple. Liars, though, they want to sound convincing. They think the more they say, the more believable they'll be. What they don't realize is the more they talk, the more they reveal. You see, in their effort to cover everything, they'll often contradict themselves. They'll forget what they said a moment ago or add in something that doesn't fit. And if you press them, those details they gave you so confidently, they start to crumble. Now, let's flip the script. Some liars go the opposite route. They get vague. Instead of overloading you with information, they give you as little as possible. You ask them a direct question, and they dodge it. They'll say things like, "I don't remember," "I'm not sure." They'll keep it short, hoping you won't push further. But vagueness is just as telling as too much detail. It's like they're afraid that saying too much will trap them, so they stick to safe, generic answers. Here's what's key about vague responses: they don't feel right. When someone's telling the truth, even if they don't remember every detail, they'll still try to give you an honest answer. But a liar? They'll shut down the conversation before it can even start. They don't want to risk exposing themselves, so they keep everything surface level. You might also notice how liars shift between these two extremes. At first, they might try to be vague, but if you keep pressing, they'll start piling on the details. It's like they're testing the waters, trying to figure out what you'll believe. And when they feel cornered, they panic. That's when their story starts to spiral either into over-explaining or clamming up completely. Another thing to watch for is the way they respond to your questions. An honest person answers directly. They might even admit when they're unsure. But a liar? They'll often answer a question with another question, or they'll give you information that doesn't even relate to what you asked. It's a classic tactic: deflect, distract, and derail. And let's not forget the tone. Listen to how they speak. When someone's being truthful, their tone is steady, confident. But when they're lying, you'll often hear hesitation. Maybe they pause too long before answering, like they're trying to come up with something. Or maybe they talk too fast, rushing through their response because they're nervous. Their voice might even betray them, getting higher, quieter, or shaky. Now here's the part where you have to be sharp. It's not just about what they're saying, but how it fits the context. If their answer feels rehearsed, if it sounds like they're reading from a script, that's a red flag. Real conversations are fluid, natural. Lies, on the other hand, are often stiff, calculated. So what do you do when you sense this? You stay calm. Don't let them see you're suspicious. Instead, keep asking questions gently but firmly. If they're being overly detailed, dig into those details. Ask them to repeat something or clarify. Watch how they react. Do they stumble? Do they change their story? And if they're being vague, press for specifics. Keep the focus on what you need to know. The goal here isn't just to catch someone in a lie for the sake of it. It's about understanding the truth, about protecting yourself and your relationships. Lies create cracks in trust, and if you can spot them early, you can address them before they cause deeper damage. Remember, lying takes effort. It's like juggling. It might look smooth at first, but eventually something falls. Whether it's the excessive details or the evasive answers, the truth always finds a way to peek through. Your job is to pay attention, to listen not just with your ears, but with your instincts. Trust what you feel, because the truth, it's always there, waiting for you to see it. All right, now let's dig into this idea of delayed or hesitant responses. When someone is lying, time becomes their enemy. They need it, but they don't have enough of it. You ask them a simple question, something straightforward, and instead of giving you an answer right away, they pause. They hesitate. They stumble over their words. And right there, in that moment, is where the truth starts to slip. See, lying is a process. It's not like telling the truth, which comes naturally. When someone is lying, they're working. Their mind is racing, trying to build a story that sounds believable, fits the situation, and won't fall apart under scrutiny. That's a lot to juggle. So when you ask them a question, they need time to figure out how to respond without exposing themselves. Now, this hesitation, it's not always loud. Sometimes it's just a fraction of a second, a little too long before they speak. Other times it's obvious. They'll say, or let me think, or they'll repeat the question, stalling for time. Pay attention to these moments because they're not natural. When someone knows the truth, they don't need to search for it. It's right there, ready to go. But a liar? They're digging, scrambling, trying to piece something together. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you ask someone, "Where were you last night?" A truthful person will answer without hesitation. "I was at home," or "I was out with friends." But a liar, they'll pause. Maybe they'll laugh nervously or look away. Then they'll say something like, "Why do you ask?" That's their way of buying time, flipping the focus back onto you so they can think. And it's not just the pause before they answer. It's how they speak once they do. Their words might come out slower, more measured, like they're testing each one before they let it out. Or they might start talking too fast, rushing through their answer because they're nervous. Either way, it doesn't feel natural. It feels off. Now, here's the tricky part. Not every pause or hesitation means someone is lying. People hesitate for all kinds of reasons. Maybe they're nervous, maybe they're trying to remember something, or maybe they're just not great at expressing themselves. But when you combine that hesitation with other signs like inconsistent stories, unusual body language, or overly detailed responses, that's when you know something's not right. Think about how a liar processes your question. First, they have to figure out what you're asking. Then, they have to decide how much they think you already know. They don't want to say something that could get them caught, so they're careful, overly careful. And in that carefulness, they trip themselves up. You can also catch this hesitation when you follow up. Let's say they give you an answer, but you're not satisfied. You ask for more details or you challenge what they said. Watch what happens. If they're lying, that hesitation will creep back in. They'll take longer to respond because now they're adjusting their story to fit your questions. And the more they talk, the more time they need to think. But let's go deeper. Hesitation isn't just about the words they say. It's about the energy behind those words. When someone hesitates, you can feel it. It's like they're holding back, like they're not fully present in the conversation. They're thinking too much, calculating, instead of just being. And that energy, it doesn't lie. Now, what do you do when you spot this? You don't jump to conclusions, you don't accuse them outright. Instead, you stay calm, steady, you keep asking questions, giving them just enough rope to reveal themselves. If they're telling the truth, their answers will hold up. But if they're lying, those delays, those hesitations, they'll keep popping up. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to rush them. In fact, give them all the time they need. The longer they take, the more obvious it becomes. They think they're buying time, but really, they're just giving you more chances to see through them. It's important to understand why this matters. Lies create cracks in trust, and hesitation is often the first crack you'll notice. When you can recognize it, you can protect yourself. You can ask the right questions, look for the right signs, and make decisions based on the truth, not the fiction someone is trying to sell you. So pay attention to the pauses, to the moments of hesitation. They might be small, but they speak volumes. Trust what you hear, what you see, and what you feel. Because when someone hesitates to tell you the truth, that's when you know they're holding something back. And that's your cue to dig deeper, to find the truth hidden in the silence. All right, let's get into it, because this is where things get real. When someone's lying, their words might be saying one thing, but their emotions and behavior, they're telling a whole different story. It's like watching a play where the actor forgets their lines. What they're trying to show doesn't match what's actually happening. And if you're paying attention, you'll see it clear as day. Here's the deal. When we speak the truth, our emotions naturally align with our words. If someone's genuinely happy, you'll see it in their face, hear it in their voice, feel it in their energy. But a liar, they're putting on a show, and it's hard to keep everything in sync. That's where the emotional mismatches come in. Imagine someone is telling you they're sorry, but their face is blank, or worse, they're smirking. That doesn't add up, does it? Real remorse comes with a certain tone, a certain expression. Maybe their voice softens, maybe their eyes lower. But when the words and the emotions don't match, it's like a red flag waving right in front of you. And it's not just about the big emotions. Sometimes it's the little things that give them away. Let's say they're telling you a story about something exciting, but their tone is flat, their gestures are stiff. It's like their body didn't get the memo. That's because lying takes effort. They're so focused on crafting their story that they forget to align their emotions with it. Now let's talk about nervous behavior. When someone's lying, their body often betrays them before their words do. It's the little things: fidgeting, tapping their foot, rubbing their neck. They might avoid eye contact, or on the flip side, they might stare too hard, trying to convince you they're being honest. Either way, it feels unnatural. Think about their voice. Nervousness often shows up there too. Maybe their voice gets higher or it starts to waver. Maybe they're talking too fast, rushing to get through their lie, or they're pausing too much, trying to think of what to say next. These are all signs that their emotions aren't lining up with the story they're telling. Here's a key thing to watch for overcompensation. Some liars know they're not coming across as genuine, so they try too hard. They'll laugh too loud, smile too wide, or act overly confident. But instead of making their story more believable, it just makes it feel forced. Real emotions flow naturally. Fake ones, they're like a bad performance. You can spot them a mile away. And then there are the micro expressions. These are those quick, involuntary flashes of emotion that cross someone's face before they can hide them. They might say they're happy, but for a split second, you catch a glimpse of anger or fear. It's subtle, but if you're watching closely, it's there. Now let's dig into mismatched timing. When someone is lying, their emotional responses are often delayed. For example, if you tell them something surprising, a genuine reaction is immediate. But a liar, they'll pause, like they're processing how they're supposed to react. It's like they're playing catch up with their emotions, and that delay, it's a dead giveaway. Another thing to notice is how they respond to pressure. When you ask someone a direct question, a truthful person answers with confidence. Their emotions match the situation, but a liar, they might get defensive, overreact, or shut down completely. It's like their nervous energy takes over, and they can't control it. Now, I'm not saying every nervous behavior or mismatched emotion means someone's lying. Some people get anxious even when they're telling the truth. That's why you've got to look at the whole picture. Is their story consistent? Does their body language match their words? Are there other signs of deception? It's about putting the pieces together. So what do you do when you spot these mismatches? You stay calm, steady, don't call them out right away. Instead, keep the conversation going. Ask more questions. Give them room to trip themselves up. The more they talk, the harder it becomes for them to keep everything aligned. And here's the most important part: trust your instincts. When something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Your gut picks up on things your conscious mind might miss, those subtle mismatches, those little signs of nervousness. Don't ignore that feeling. At the end of the day, emotional mismatches and nervous behavior are like cracks in the foundation of a lie. They might be small, but they're there and they can't be hidden. When you learn to spot them, you gain the power to see the truth behind the words. And that's a skill that will serve you in every part of your life. So watch, listen, and trust what you see. So here's the truth: lies may be spoken, but the body, the emotions, the energy, they don't lie. When you learn to recognize the mismatches, the hesitation, the nervous behavior, you unlock a powerful skill. You gain the ability to see beyond the surface, to trust your instincts, and to uncover the truth hidden in plain sight. This isn't just about catching someone in a lie, it's about protecting your peace, building stronger relationships, and living with clarity. So stay sharp, stay aware, and trust yourself. The truth is always there, you just have to be bold enough to see it.